Welcome to another edition of Quoth Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 29-year veteran writer, illustrator, and editor of comics, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games. It's a little bit chilly today, so I'll put my hoodie on. But it is, what did you get this week, Thursday? And it's kind of a weird week. I did get some books. Diamond actually did ship their order to the local comic shop this week, as opposed to last week. Unfortunately, I missed a couple of items. My fault, not the stores. So they'll be in next week's show, but I got 3 books this week. So let's go ahead and talk about them. And the first one is Batman, The Adventures Continue, Season 2, Number 5 at $3.99. Publisher is DC Comics. The writers are Alan Burnett and Paul Dini. Artist is Rick Burkett. Colorist is Monica Cabina. Letterer is Josh Reed. Cover artist is Jamal Campbell. The genre is superhero action-adventure. It was released on October 5th. Well, it's about Noel Face returns to Gotham when former Mayor Emerson Mayfield steps out of retirement looking to once again rise to power. But Batman isn't thrilled with the mayor's homecoming after his run-ins with him during his early years as the Caped Crusader. Can Batman deduce what Mayfield's plan for Gotham is before it's too late? This is basically starting at the beginning of the present-day story right after what's been going on recently with Mayor Hamilton Hill. As the race to replace the departed, Hamilton Hill, makes the dramatic return with the entry of the former Mayor Emerson Mayfield. But while most of Gotham is excited for this, Batman is anything but. And thus, an issue-long flashback to Batman's early years in Gotham begins. Mayfield was a charismatic, homespun politician who ran on a platform casting Batman as a lunatic and promising to bring back old-fashioned law and order to the city. When he was elected, he introduced his own private security force to hunt down all criminals, including Batman. Exactly why Batman's a criminal? Well, he is, technically, by the letter of the law, because vigilantism is illegal. But as usual, not everything was on the level. And this begins a tense segment as Batman finds himself up against the full force of the law for the first time. He manages to quickly discover the truth about M-Force, Mayfield's private gang, but finding out the truth and proving it are very different things, especially with M-Force ordered to shoot to kill. It's particularly interesting to see Gordon try to balance his responsibilities with what he knows is true and correct. But he quickly finds himself marginalized by the mayor and the police as well. Mayfield is one of the most loathsome villains ever to appear in the series, as a thoroughly corrupt politician who has no problem exploiting people's legitimate fears or even making them worse for his own financial benefit. It's also intriguing how Batman was eventually able to stop him but not vanquish him, as his politician return makes very clear. Mayfield seems maybe a bit too inspired by a certain other politician of the modern era, but that kind of makes the story feel both very relevant and well done, and would probably have been even better if it had been done in a regular Batman series as opposed to the animated series. though I'm sure that the idiot comic gators would proclaim that the story was then Republican, targeting Republicans or some other nonsense. The reality is, it's really not that much different from Batman versus Boss Thorne, Rupert Thorne. It's just that the mayor is supposedly working for the people, and pulling the wool over the eyes of the people, as opposed to just being a straight up crook. That's basically the only difference. Recommended for ages 13 and up. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Let's take a quick look at some of the art. This is covered by Jamal Campbell. Very nicely done. There's some of the artwork there by Rick Burkett. At first, you see some of this weird looking fog that's appearing through. I thought it was like a printing error, but then I realized it was meant to be there because I saw it in other parts of the book, and I saw it on the computer with other people's reviews that had the same effect. So I was like, okay, well, I think it's probably an effect that they actually did in the book, Again, we're going backward and doing a flashback sequence. Still very well done, very well colored by Monica Camino. There's an ad in here for Batman the Audio Adventures. It's appearing on HBO Max, I guess. I don't know how that would work. I don't know what they do. I mean, I guess they're having an audio performance and they show it. They're doing it like the old-fashioned radio programs. I don't get HBO Max. It's a podcast series, so I really don't know. Kind of interesting, though, if they're going to do that. A little bit of too many commercials, ads in the book. I mean, story page, ad page, story page, ad page, story page, ad page. It gets a little bit tedious on that front. That's not how comic books are supposed to be laid out. That is one thing I did not like. But this is all, as far as the story itself goes, very well done. And that's kind of why I kind of got the 4 out of 5, though, because that page ad, ad page, ad pages in your story are supposed to be there for story breaks, kind of like a commercial break in a TV show. And we used to paste them a certain way in our comics so that we did story beats in conjunction with where we placed the commercial art, for the advertising in the comics. And so when you do like that, you're not doing it that way. You're breaking up the actual pacing of the story, and it's affecting the story in an adverse manner, in my opinion. That's that's just my opinion. Our next book is EVERFROST number 4 of 4, $3.99. Publisher is Black Mask Studios. Writer is Ryan K. Lindsay. Artist is Sammy Cavella. Colorist is Lauren Affe. And I think it's Campbell who does the lettering. Let me check real quick. Yes, Jim Campbell does lettering. Okay. Science fiction adventure story. It was released this week, so October 6th. Sorry about not putting the actual date on there, but it is October 6th. What it's about. One thing I do like about EVERFROST, they do put recaps of what happened in the previous issues inside the front cover, and it really does help make sense of what's happened so far in the series. Van, the protagonist, has found her people. This is something is not right here. This is not what it says. This is a recap from issue 3 on here. I wonder what happened. Let me check something here, if you don't mind. That should not have happened. What happened here? Huh. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and read you what the actual recap is from the actual book here. Van is lost in a snow city run by an artificial intelligence. She's brought a matter of the heart, her repeatedly cloned dead son, to a structure of only brain, the cold and calculated supercomputer that sent Ward away and taken over the planet. And it looks like Rainveg, who is the barbarian Viking chick that's her associate, is about to kill Van on gut reaction alone because for some reason they're against the AIs or something. I don't know. I've forgotten. But anyway, they've all come a long way to get what they want, and now it comes down to this 3-point standoff of Ranvig versus Van versus the AI. Can Van protect her family? Can Ranvig rebuild her past, or will the city around them freeze all their possible futures? And that's pretty much what it sets up. So anyway, let me go ahead and get into what it actually is. And what happens is they bring back the 8 character who was supposed to be killed 2 issues ago. And that right there screamed Deus Ex Machina for me and irked me. For those of you who don't remember my previous reviews, 8 was Van's cyber monkey companion, who is now not a monkey, but a cyber snake implanted inside a giant dragon. Yeah, I know. Doesn't make any sense. Just roll with it. Turn your brain off. The next scene, the AI kills the dragon, but not the 8 character. Wait for it. And Van faces off against the cyber AI who kills Van, and then says they can remake the world using Van's DNA or something to that effect. Only Rainvig stops it, and she and 8 instead do something to rewrite the AI's code and bring back Van and Rainvig's body or something like that. That's how I interpreted what was on the page anyway. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. I think that's partly due to the deliberate metaphor and innuendo the author is trying to go for. I didn't hate it, but I'm seriously done with the story. Yes, I realize this is the last issue of this story arc, but apparently there's going to be more EVERFROST stories. This is just the conclusion of this arc. The cover looks nice, and the art's okay throughout, but overall it's just there. Rated for 16 and up, 3 out of 5 stars. Really, the best thing on it is the cover, which is kind of sad, but it is what it is. Lastly, we have REDSHIFT, number 3 of 6, $3.99. Publisher Scout Comics, writer, and I use that term loosely, H.S. Tack. Art, Brent McKee. Color, Sebastian Chang. Lettering by Joel Rodriguez. Cover art by Amake Nahupan, I guess. I apologize if I slaughtered your name there. Genre is science fiction, released October 6, 2021. As Aphelion, that's the ship that is being traveled from Mars out to the outer solar system. The explorers, as that ship travels further away from home, which is Mars, the explorers work to gain each other's trust, while Tiberius, who was one of the politicals back on Mars, discovers some rather inconvenient truths about the rule of law on Mars. Now, what I think about this is it did come out within a month's time instead of 5 months between the issues like it happened between issues 1 and 2, so that's a plus. I was expecting this book 2 weeks ago, however, because of what was said online by the publisher. But okay, a month is, at least you did it within a proper schedule. Got the book out on time from when the last issue came out. But with that said, we have to get down to brass tacks. The details of the distances that the two astronauts are trying to cover on their travels from Mars to Neptune, also the Kuiper Belt, is mixed up and rather confusing to me. I'll grant you I suck at mathematics, but I'm pretty damn sure that the distance between Mars and Neptune is 42 million miles, not 2.640 million miles from home, Mars, as stated on page 3. Then the character Vera, it's the female, that you see sitting on the throne, so to speak, there on the cover there. She asks how far away from the sun they are, and it says 2.6 billion miles from the sun. That's generally accurate. It's actually closer to 2.75 billion miles, but I'll allow for a slight variance. But that makes the point on page 3 that much more glaring and confusing, because it's not that far between Mars and the other. So it's like, why are you bringing up both? Just pick up one or the other. It took me out of the story immediately because there's such a huge difference between millions and billions of miles. And the time they would take them to travel those distances involved, it completely changes the context of the story. If Mars is running out of resources for humanity to live on there, and they're trying to, and these characters are on a research mission to find a new place to settle, millions of miles is pushing it, but it's doable, possibly, if you get the right kind of luck and find a place to go right away. But billions means they're never going to get back to Mars to get anybody out of there. So what's the point of the mission? What's the point of the story? So just having that 2.6 billion to 2 million miles from home over here, it's just like, stop, pick one, that really just messed with me a little bit. Having a proper understanding of your distances in your solar system also helps a great deal understanding why humanity had not already moved to the stars in this story, and why even in this future they have only managed to colonize the moon and Mars. So that mixed up inconsistency took me completely out of the story. Anyway, they get to not Neptune, but Neptune, although we'll say Neptune for about the lack of excitement in the story. They find the remains of an earlier mission. They find the remains of a former shuttle. And the female captain, that's Vera, decides to go on a spacewalk to get to the ship and acquire its logs to find out what happened to it. Now, I'm sorry, but it seems like in the future they should be able to find a way to do this via digital communications, assuming the ship has any power. And if it doesn't, then I don't see how she plans to get the ship's logs anyway. So I can understand why the other astronaut, Hellinger or whatever his name is there, I can't remember, something like Hellinger. I can understand why he's against her doing this. Anyway, things go as badly as possible as the broken ship inexplicably blows up a thruster, and the captain has to rush through the ship that is heading directly into Neptune's atmosphere and enters the atmosphere, which would immediately destroy the ship within seconds. I'm sorry. And she has to figure out the escape bounce velocity from the atmosphere before the ship breaks up. And then get the ship back to her ship, which she manages to do even though the broken Perseus is like half of a space shuttle in design, has no wings and only one thruster edge launching, and all other kinds of demonstrated points that would make this feat impossible. So by this point, I'm thinking that the writer has no effing clue how to write plausible science fiction. But then the writer gives the explanation of what happened to the Perseus ship, which is the previous ship that's all broken up, from the logs, claiming that there was an electromagnetic pulse blast that knocked out the ship. And then the Hellinger character, the male character, Hellinger, says, well, that sounds like such a mundane event that that could have been managed by the pilot or the ship's AI. I emphasize, or the ship's AI. Now, first off, excuse me, if there was an electromagnetic pulse attack, you wouldn't have any logs because it would destroy your records. It would erase all the data. Secondly, the AI would have been fried and would be dead. So, it's kind of a, dumb, because this electromagnetic pulse we're talking about is like a solar flare level type of EMP, not a little mini thing. So if you're sitting here getting solar flare type EMP level cosmic radiation, that if turns all your systems off and everything, you're done. So none of this is making any sense. On top of that, the EMP in a heavy cosmic ray level doesn't just knock out electronics, it can potentially disrupt the bioelectrics of our own bodies. Which normally EMPs don't affect human bodies, but they can if they're of a high enough intensity, which they would be in outer space because you don't have atmospheric protections, you don't have other things, and plus you got cosmic radiation on top of it. So anyway, on top of this, she manages to get the ship into the cargo bay of their ship. And Helena, the male, forgets all about what he just told her about the dangers of it going on a spacewalk, and completely ignores any protocols that would be in place and rushes to Vera and hugs her. Hello, she just came in from a spacewalk, just spent time in another ship that be contaminated with who knows what, and you just run up in plain clothes and hug her before she goes through any decontamination protocols? Really? I'm done. I'm sorry. I'm giving up on this book. The writer is just terrible. He doesn't think his storyline through. The editor should be tearing every living F out of him for this. It's just terrible. The art is okay, but when the story makes no sense whatsoever, no. Maybe this is the real reason why this book took so long to get produced and was between issues last time, because the guy just couldn't write a story. Who knows? And this cover that you see here has nothing whatsoever to do with what's going on in the book, by the way. There's no, because Helena's never in his suit, and there's no throne or anything that she's sitting on. It should have been Vera spacewalking out in space as the cover. At least that would have had something to do with what was going on in the story. It's recommended for ages 16 up if you're going to be reading it. I give it a 2 out of 5, and that's because the art. I'll give the art a 2 anyway, the 5, but that's all I can give it because the writing is so bad. It drains the rest of the scoring system. But this is my last issue. I'm not going to buy the rest of the storyline because that's just how bad this is. I cannot see where the writer is going to redeem themselves and make any sense of what's going on, unfortunately. And so that is our review this week. Sorry to turn it down, bring it down note, so to speak. That being said, as always, I want to thank you for watching. Tomorrow morning, around 11:30 or so, our next book will be The Fire of Theseus, written by Jerry Frizen, art by Francesco Trafogli. On Saturday, we will have another Booktober review, one book. Haven't decided which one it is yet. And then on Saturday night, we'll have the Saturday night movie night, or it's movie TV review, and we'll be talking about Star Trek Discovery, Season 3. And then I think on Sundays, we'll do the live draw, and we'll have another Booktober day and Booktober review, and then a live draw on Sunday. That is the tentative schedule for the weekend. And then Monday, our Booktober review will definitely be Immortal Hulk Volume 1 through 4, 1 or 5 from Marvel. So we are looking at quite a bit of stuff to get done this week. Hopefully with the live draw, I'll even have a guest. We'll talk. We'll hopefully see and I'll let you know in the days to come. In the meantime, if you enjoyed this video or you think others might, hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get content from this channel. As always, I thank you for watching and for your support. If you want to reach me, you can reach me on Facebook at Lewis.BrightRaven, on Twitter at LewisBrightRaven2. If you want to look at my artwork, you can check it out at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You're watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven, exclusively on YouTube. If you have questions or comments about the video, or you want to ask me questions about what's going on in the industry, or you want to commission me for something, Quoth the Raven, LBR72@gmail.com is the best place to reach me. And I'll do my best to answer your questions on here, or if it's not something I think is appropriate for online answering, I'll answer it privately. And if for some reason I don't get back to you on the Gmail account, try lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. And again, we'll see you next time, and have a good day.